In Health Watch, a new study confirms that while concussion rates in many sports are down, girls who play soccer remain at risk for the traumatic brain injury. Dr. John LaPook explains why.
Soccer stars Megan Rapinoe, Abby Wambach, Michelle Akers, and Brandi Chastain's pledge to donate their brains was sparked by concern over the long-term impact of all those headers and collisions. In June, we spoke with retired World Cup winners Brandi Chastain and Michelle Akers.
I smashed into the back of her head, so I broke an orbital fracture and broke my nose and my teeth.
Oh, I did a lot of heading the ball, and very proudly so, and very determined and very aggressive.
This new study looks at head trauma in high school sports. Boys football had the highest rate of concussion, 10 per every 10,000 practices or games. Girls soccer was second at a rate of 8 per 10,000. Boys soccer had a much lower rate. In the 20 sports studied, girls had more than twice the rate of concussions as boys.
I've had really bad headaches and I've just been sleeping a lot. And for the past week, I haven't been to school.
12-year-old Olivia Hans got a concussion last month during a soccer game when she collided with another player and hit the ground. Emily Lee is Olivia's mother.
We were worried because it was severe. It was considered a major concussion.
For girls, heading the ball or colliding with another player were the main causes of concussions. Dr. Jason Kristofiak is a team doctor for a women's professional team.
We're still working with proper diagnosing and management of the concussions, but what we're also really trying to promote is awareness and prevention.
And Dr. John LaPook joins us now for more on this. So, Doctor, why is it that when you look at soccer, for instance, concussion rates are so much higher for girls compared to boys?
Yeah, million-dollar question, Elaine. There are some theories about this. It could be that there are hormonal differences. There are differences in the anatomy of the neck. Or one possibility that I read is that women, young girls, are more likely to report their symptoms than the boys. And we don't have proof of that, but that's one of the theories.
Interesting. Well, what long-term effects might these concussions have on these girls?
Well, that's a great question. And, you know, Bob Stern's group up at Boston University is looking at the possible long-term effects of traumatic brain injury on girls. And young women. So he's studying professional athletes. Like we interviewed Michelle Akers and Brandi Chastain because, you know, with Title IX, there was a later start for 1972 is when it was approved. So now they're sort of coming of age to the point where they might develop some kind of long-term traumatic brain injury, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And one of the things that they're wondering is these headers, which you may not even necessarily have to have a concussion, Elaine.
Wow.
So you can just be the sort of the rattling around of the head and the header.
Wow, it's interesting because, you know, I've talked to some parents, soccer moms and soccer dads who say, well, you know what, football is not something I would necessarily feel comfortable with. Soccer is a different story, but now it's really fascinating to hear about this. As we watch this evolve, though, there is some good news. Recurrent concussions across all sports have actually declined. So what are some of those factors that might be associated with that?
Well, then that's recurrent concussions. So those are people who are identified as having a concussion, and then they watched them. And that's because right now there is increased awareness. That's the most likely explanation for this. So once you've been diagnosed with a concussion, then they're going to keep you out of the game for a while. They're going to be following you. And there are some really interesting tools now that are being used to diagnose concussions at the sidelines. So at NYU, I saw something that a woman was developing where, you know how like in the cartoons when you get your bell rung, what happens? Like the eyes go around like this, right? Well, that really happens. It's called a lack of conjugate gaze. And so they have this device, you put it on and you follow a light or a ball that goes like this. And if your eyes are not tracking it the same way, then that's a sign right at the moment of concussion that you may be having some signs. Symptoms are tough, right? Because people deny it sometimes and they want to play.
It's been part of the game.
They're part of the game, don't tough it out. And, you know, I always think, especially, you know, the boys, that, you know, testosterone, how do I put this gently? It has been known to diminish emotional intelligence in some men at some moments.
You said it, doctor, not me. Okay.
So, you know, if you may just say, you know what, it's not a problem for me, and I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to run through the wall, coach. And we got to educate people to say, no, you know, don't be so tough.
Yeah. Well, findings like this certainly are helping to raise awareness, I think. Dr. John LaPook, doctor, thank you so much.